introduce our next speaker, Aric Rosenbaum, and Chief Technology Global Financial Services at Red Hat, and John Goyanes, Principal of Cloud Practice at Deloitte. Welcome on stage, folks.
Thank you, everybody. As Gab said, my name is Aric Rosenbaum. I'm the Chief Technologist in Red Hat's Global Financial Services practice. And we're going to talk today about FinOps and resilience in an open hybrid cloud world. I'm joined by John Goyanes with Deloitte. John, can you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, everyone. John Goyanes. I'm a principal in Deloitte's cloud practice. I've spent most of my career in financial services. And I currently, largely in technology leadership teams, optimizing the service cost and risk paradigm. And I now do that with clients, largely in financial services, but also in the consumer space.
Excellent. So as we dig into FinOps, can you define for the audience, what is FinOps in your definition?
We benefited from a great presentation about an hour ago, so I won't attempt to replay that. I won't do it justice. It was a very, very well thought out piece of work. I'll paraphrase some of it. It's a practice that facilitates data-driven decision makings for IT, and effectively the search for value, which is stop spending money where you don't need to spend money and spend money more where you're going to extract some value. We kind of see the world parsed up into three pieces, right? There's a very small set of companies that haven't touched this. Mm-hmm. That number is shrinking dramatically every year.
Haven't touched this set?
Have not, right? So 2 years ago.
They spend whatever.
2 years ago, that list of companies was actually fairly significant. Mm-hmm. So in a room of 100, that is one or two of this. And they're probably beginning their cloud journey, have largely been in their internal facilities. The vast majority fall into one of two categories. Repathing their current FinOps practice based on the fact that the world has evolved very differently or substantially from where they were, or they didn't do some of the things that maybe they should have done 2, 3, 4 years ago. And people full bore going down the FinOps practice for the first time. And we're seeing some consistent patterns for success there and some consistent patterns for challenges.
And where the firms that are the best performing firms? You know, is there a common theme of what they're doing?
I think they're getting the culture right. That was discussed a little earlier today. The culture of it is okay to spend money as long as we know we're extracting value from it. The best companies rope in engineers in this process. They do not do it with financial people in a vacuum. They encourage engineers to be involved in it, and they're lockstep with it. They create milestones that are measurable for, at a certain point in time, and attempt to be comprehensive in the coverage of that milestone, right? They consider cloud, SaaS, and their internal data center when looking at that cost.
Excellent. So you mentioned cloud. Let's pivot a little bit to resilience. So as before, can you define for us, in your mind, how Deloitte looks upon as resilience?
A resilient system is a system that's able to respond to and recover from a failure, right? Okay. So the assumption is things will break. The question is, have we done, the engineering? Have we created the observability? Have we created high availability? Have we prepped for a disaster if that's the type of failure we're seeing? Have we done those things? And if you have, you're probably in a pretty good set of circumstances in the event there is a failure.
But the landscape is certainly changing, where historically, a bank or a financial service institution would have, a few data centers separated by X number of kilometers or miles. But now the cloud, adds to that dimension.
Right.
Then you have, FINOS common cloud controls. You have DORA in Europe. You have OSFI, in Canada. The regulators are concerned about concentration risk. Firms are concerned about resilience after COVID and supply chain issues and stuff like that. So what are firms doing to accommodate this and be prepared for the future?
Completely agree. The expansion of cloud service providers, the expansion of SaaS consumption, particularly in the financial services space, is driving a much more complex problem set to solve. The people that are doing this right are focusing on the transaction. So they are understanding where a transaction initiates and are flowing that transaction through the system and are having very detailed conversations about where are the failure points in that transaction and how do I create resiliency around that transaction.
So an end-to-end transactional view as opposed to a system here, a data center there.
Right, and look, many of us have probably been in conversations of, do we have a backup at that other site? Do I have hardware at that other site that in the event something fails, I can turn on and we can start working again? This is about how do I never experience an event where I'm seeing it and more importantly, my customers aren't seeing it, right? And now with the other part of the landscape change, Aric, is our expectations have changed dramatically, right? We're able to order something and it comes to us, right? And we know it's on our way, and we can follow the transaction both logically and physically. In the financial services sector, that expectation is also there from customers, and we're seeing the market react to that.
Okay. Deloitte has a term that I find interesting called active resilience.
It's really the acceptance of that new expectation, and the expectation that every part of this transaction will in fact be monitored or observed, and I have an alternative path for completing that transaction. It is an actively monitored service as part of the culture of the team.
Okay, interesting. And within the financial services space, where are you seeing successes? Where are you seeing, anti-patterns where people, are having challenges, and, hopefully sharing that so that, the people in the audience can accelerate their efforts?
Again, culture is a big one, right? The culture of it's not okay when things break and we can't make money. It's not okay when things break. And frankly, financial services has historically been very good at this, right? This is one of the things as I go beyond financial services into other markets, we're very good at making sure things work. I think it's embedding it in everything we do. Robust SRE capabilities end up being critical to this, right? The use of CI/CD to restore services is a massive enabler to this.
I imagine governance as well, setting up the guardrails, setting up the process initially.
Just the conversation of which are the most important transactions.
Okay.
Right? In a complex financial institution, and agreeing in some staged way, these are the most important transactions, that requires governance. And I, for one, have been sometimes surprised at how long it takes to get alignment on. These are the top 10 transactions we are catering to right now.
And is it a pattern where somebody says, okay, let's score these, quantitatively, what the most important are, what the medium importance, what the lower importance are, and then we tackle the hard ones first, they tackle the medium ones, get some experience, and then go to the harder ones?
The most comprehensive transaction, we've actually encouraged people to look at something that's complicated, because in the process of doing that, they're going to cover the better part of several other transactions. The interdependency of systems, if you can tackle the big ugly ones first, it's going to lay down the foundation for a lot of the other things around it. But doing one transaction very well is a key parameter of success. Okay,
very interesting. Any closing thoughts on FinOps and resilience?
No, I think both of these two very important and timely topics. On FinOps, we've seen a ton of interest in this space, and the irony is it's often driven by budgets collapsing and the desire to, let's save some money right now. And while that may be an enabler to saving some money right now, the best time to do this is when you don't actually need the money. If you look at this as a culture, and I think it applies to resiliency as well, if you look at this as not a project, not an event, but we're creating capabilities that will be persistent in our organization and are designing for persistent, you're going to be in a much better place.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I would like to invite everyone to, I'll be at the Red Hat booth later, as well as I've got a session about observability. I will welcome everyone to join that. And if you have any questions, find John or myself, but we're here to share. So thank you all very much.
Pleasure.